I thought emo was so 2005.
So last week we talked all about what is emo, but this week we're talking about what is emo.
So, welcome to episode 7 of Kids from Yesterday podcast. If you've just joined us, maybe this is your first episode, we'll bring you up to speed. My name is Clodagh.
My name is Courtney.
And we talk about all things emo culture. And today, specifically, we're talking all things emo culture. So, emo is not just music. There's emo films, books, YouTubers, emo clothes. And we're going to kind of delve back into our youth and talk about some of our favourite things from our emo era.
Delve into our youth, like that's a new thing we don't do every episode.
Oh, absolutely
We're
not.
doing it again.
Yes.
So to start with, a thing we do quite regularly on this podcast is we read books.
Yes.
But we read things, we find kind of science or evidence to kind of support what we're saying.
Yeah.
So last week we read Andy Greenwald's Nothing Feels Good, and it was kind of looking at the roots of emo culture. And then for this week, I read a book called Everybody Hurts by Leslie Simon and Trevor Kelley. This was written in 2006, I think, or 2007. Yeah, published in 2007. And Andy Greenwald, who had written that last book, did a foreword to this. So he was talking about kind of the history that he'd repeated in the first book.
Yeah.
But also now he was talking about like Hot Topic and MySpace and like LiveJournal and like bringing up My Chemical Romance and like Panic at the Disco going platinum and stuff, and like how much the scene has changed, and like it had changed in 4 years, which is wild. But this book that I read, it was written by two people who worked for alternative press. So at the time, Leslie Simon was the managing editor and Trevor Kelley was a leading contributor, and he'd written for like Spin, NME and Harp, and like Leslie had written for E! Online and Teen People, and so it was essentially like a guide, like a how-to guide to emo. I mean, we were talking last week about like, we want there to be a guide, a how-to guide to emo.
And here it is.
Probably for the first time of like reading stuff, that I just thought this wasn't the best thing in the world.
Oh, okay.
Like it's split up really nicely. Like it's like kind of an anthology of what emo is. So they split things up into ideology, into hair, into fashion, into like films, books, everything that people consider to be emo. Like, and then there's a whole section on how to write an emo blog post, which we might do in our Tumblr for the crack.
We'll follow the formula.
Yeah. Like the only thing I found weird about this, and I actually found an article, it's called Everybody Still Hurts, the story behind the essential guide to emo culture 10 years later. So this was this book that I'm talking about. So Leslie talked about meeting Trevor Kelley for the first time and what it was like to work with him, and she thought he was kind of weird and like quirky and stuff. And you can kind of see that in the book, but like there's random accounts of like, I think there were like 7 separate incidents of fat shaming, one random thing about like Hilary Duff is too thin, and it's like, well, you don't like fat people, you don't like thin people,
What do you like?
What is it that you want, sir? And there was just like weird shit that like if you were to write this book now, it wouldn't happen.
Okay.
So to take it at face value, we're just going to look at kind of the different parts of it that I thought were interesting. So to them, core emo values are depression.
Okay.
Effortlessness. So they were like, well, you know, you have to make effort to look like you rolled out of bed. But like that? So like you had to put some effort into it because you couldn't actually roll out of bed because your hair wouldn't look the way you want it to look if you did that. Empathy, which I agree. I think that's in there. They said faith, which is what emo followers, when emo sir, when emo followers believe in something, they believe in it 110%. they were like, a girl named Hollyhocks really did inspire the Save the Day song Hollyhocks Forget Me Nots. Morrissey really does have his own MySpace. Your prom date really isn't someone you're related to. I mean, it's just shit like that I'm like, why is that in there? That's it's weird. But then they were like insecurity, and then non-athleticism, which that was like an emo thing. Like, you don't, I remember even the beginning to the I'm not okay, you can't sing, you can't dance, you don't know karate. Like, I feel like that was real. Like, you can't run because you ruined my eyeliner or whatever. But they kind of went into like emo ancestors, so their hypothesis is that Shakespeare was emo, and I'm like,
I can see that.
I suppose. But they were like, this is what Panic at the Disco was trying to dress like, and you're like, well, that
no.
Like, I know I had a frilly blouse that I used to wear. It was like a gold, like not like bright gold, it was like an understated gold frilly blouse that I used to call my Ryan Ross blouse, because it was so cute. I was so small and so cute. The Jane Eyre, Emily Dickinson, Holden Caulfield, Buddy Holly, not the song, the person, Molly Ringwald. They do this like whole section on like emo fact versus emo fiction. So they were like, being emo means you don't have any friends. Emo refers to a genre of music, not a lifestyle. And they were like, well, that's false, because
it is a lifestyle.
It's not a phase, Mom. To hark back to our first episode, which you haven't listened to yet, is available wherever you get your podcasts. And then they're like, being called emo is an insult, and they're like, well, it was, but like during emo's early days, in fact, it was nearly impossible to find any band that would take being called emo lying down. But like at the time that this book was written, nobody wanted to be called emo. Like, Jared Way did how many interviews where he was like, My Chemical Romance is not an emo band, like, fuck that's a load of bollocks. I'm pretty sure he didn't say fuck that's a load of bollocks, but that was
so many words.
That was the sentiment.
Yes.
And it was about crying and about like etiquette and mannerisms and like how to be cool at like shows. So like if you're buying merch, like don't put it on straight away. That's such a poser thing to do. And it's just like weird stuff that you're like, that is exactly the attitude back in the day. But just now, if people were going around saying this, you'd be like, what? But it's really weird to look back again and just think that that's how people acted.
Yeah.
So they said Rites of Spring were the first emo band. So that's somewhere in 1985. And then they talked about the Smiths. And so they did like a timeline, basically. So it was 1985, then the Smiths in 1986. And then they kept talking about Morrissey's like celibacy thing. But like, hasn't Morrissey been like, I'm asexual or whatever? So it was just like a real disregard for
his sexuality.
Yeah. And the other thing that I find really interesting in this too is that there was a whole thing at this point where a lot of the emo guys were like, I'm bisexual, and that was like the big thing that like all these MySpace people were like, I'm bisexual, and there was no mention of like sexuality. And you're like, how can you write an entire book about emo
and not feature sexuality? Because that was definitely such a massive thing. I mean, it was obviously not the most prominent part of it, but it was definitely a big enough part of emo culture to include it, because I feel like that was my first understanding and insight into sexuality was through emo music and through Pete Wentz and
like gender and like guys wearing eyeliner and nail varnish and that being fine, and it being like, this is not just like, things are not gendered here. This is, I mean, like David Bowie was like the first person to, well, not the first, but like at that time Bowie was like subverting this whole expectation of what male singers are supposed to do. So his style was very androgynous, and I feel like emo kind of held on to that a little bit.
Definitely, yeah.
And this book just doesn't talk about it, which I find so strange. And they're really obsessed with Morrissey for some reason. But they went through like different types of emo. So they thought there was like a Trustafarian emo, which is like basically a kid who like eats vegan, but they're not vegan, and they like indie rock music, and they're like found in liberal leaning environments, whatever, and they like the Flaming Lips, and you're like, that's not emo. And they're like indie emo, and then they're like, they love High Fidelity, and they love Radiohead and Muse and Death Cab for Cutie and Block Party and Sigur Rós. I forgot Muse was like,
I forgot they were part of the emo thing as well.
Like their first album maybe.
Yeah.
But after that they were just a
rock band,
a thing unto themselves kind of. Then they said Christian emo. I find we make playlists every week to go with our episodes, and every time I go to add more songs to the playlists, I get a whole section with Christian rock for you. And I'm like, are you trying to tell me something, sir? Is that what you're at? So Christian emo, so they made up of some of the most devout fans around, many of whom continue to be huge proponents of even the most obscure bands on the Christian indie label, Tooth and Nail, which apparently was a thing. Christian emo fans do not drink. They will only sometimes flat iron their hair, and they're just kind of shit talking them. So they're like, oh, they like Under Oath. I love Under Oath. Under Oath are great. And they like Further Seems Forever and Powder the Lion and Zao. And then the next one is 80s emo. So they like Cobra Starship.
I feel attacked already.
I knew you would. They like Cobra Starship, they like Head Automatica, they like Men, Women and Children and Nightmare on You. Known for their asymmetrical haircuts and an affinity for neon coloured clothing, the 80s emo set is not to be confused with fans of emo music from the 80s, as there are completely separate terms used to describe such people. Old is the first one that comes to mind. Like, haha, I love the humour of your book, sir. Like, just calm down. In this much younger set, stylistic cues are pulled from the new wave culture most of the 80s emo set wasn't alive to see firsthand. Think checkered vans, inch-wide leather ties, and a love for contemporary East Coast indie rock bands who sing in fake British accents. I think of all these archetypes, 80s emo is probably the most closest to the scene kids.
Yes.
Because you think of, like, remember Drop Dead back in the day was all, like, neon stuff, and it had the Drop Dead cat, and it was all, like, super bright and kind of horrible to look at, but that's what everybody wanted. So like the checkered vans, you can kind of see it, and that kind of colourful stuff, and leg warmers were a thing.
Yes.
And like some emo girls wore tutus, and it was all very bright and loud and stuff. So I guess that's the closest, and including Cobra Starship there. Maybe it's not an attack, Clodagh. Maybe it's okay. Then they said the frat emo, which are like dudes who were like in college and then they liked Jimmy Eat World and Take Back Sunday, Yellow Card, All American Rejects, and like that was a lot of the things in our last episode. Andy Greenwald talked a lot about guys who were like, oh, we play football on Thursdays and on Fridays we go and we cry in a basement over this band, but like it's cool, dude, like whatever, bro. And I don't think that really exists so much anymore. I guess those are the pop punk kids of today.
Yeah, I feel like this kind of, you know, the stereotypical who's who. These emos are, I think, it's a very American way to break them down, because Ireland is so small. We're all the one type of emo.
Yeah, we're like, you know, it depends who you are. You're going to call us emos, you're going to call us goths, but we're all kind of the same.
We're the one person, yeah.
And then they had goth emo, so they were like going, oh, people who look like the Helena video, or and they're like, we watched it and we're like, dude, I'm so gonna rock that shade of eyeshadow. And if people are making vampire jokes when you're around, they probably mean you. And like, you listen to Misfits and From First to Last and Aiden and Sue's on Stage era alkaline trio. And then there's the machismo emo. So they're like, it's like normal emo, but it's not. And they apparently like From Autumn to Ashes, Midtown, Glassjaw, Census Fell. So I feel like these are the emo we talked about in the last episode, that original type of emo person. But Midtown singer Gabe Saporta gets a mensch. Hard eyes. Clodagh's favourite. And then they're talking about they're an overconfident former jock who gets laid all the time and occasionally, as in the case of former Midtown singer Gabe Saporta writes searing punk rock anthems about it. Surprisingly, your typical machismo emo. Is it machismo or machismo? Machismo. I've never heard that word before, so you're on your own there, Courtney. Surprisingly, these types, cocksure attitude isn't hampered by the fact that he's still in his mid-20s and still lives with his parents. Like, I object to that because there is an economic crisis happening right now. People can't afford to live by themselves. Everyone's in with their parents. People are homeless, okay? You don't need to attack us so much, Trevor. Jesus. And they're like prog emos, and this is like, they're all fat and they like these bands, and you're like, yeah, cool, good take, good jobs. These are people who like Chiodos and Coheed and Cambria, and for some reason they're wearing sandals and tiny shorts, and I don't understand, but this is what I mean about the random fat shaming. You're just like, I don't, like, why? I don't. But again, that's so American. Yeah, definitely. And then they're like, oh, there's ex-hardcore emos. These are the ones that like would have liked Minor Threat. And then started liking like emo bands, but they're hardcore emo bands. So they were like, well, Silverstein and Set Your Goals and fucking Rise Against. You know Rise Against?
Yes.
Yes. One of my favorites.
Set Your Goals. I forgot about them.
Set Your Goals. And then Early Thursday, who we talked about last week too.
Okay.
And then they're like old country emo, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I guess because we don't have that here.
Do they like Taylor Swift?
But they like Ryan Adams. Who is a nonce. Drive-By Truckers, Wilco, and Limbeck. And I guess like they would have grown into.
I can't picture any of this happening. Like,
No.
What is going on? Like in the picture, I can see like the illustration. She's wearing cowboy boots, and I'm just what?
I mean, like there was obviously Cassidy Pope from Hey Monday. Like,
Yes.
she's a country singer now. So like I guess it exists, but yeah.
I just feel like I'm like a crossover of many of these people.
Yeah, I feel like there's no
I can't fit
definable
into any
way
one of them.
category anymore.
No.
Especially as the bands that we hear of now are all on major labels. So
Yeah.
the only way you're going to hear about them is when somebody has pumped a lot of money into them. So yeah, I guess like stuff like that's really weird. And then they went through and talked about like what's emo, what's not emo. And then at the time they were like Ashley Simpson's kind of emo because we think she was with Pete Wentz at one point, and it's like spoiler alert, they have a child together. And she was so fucking emo. Like,
Yeah,
Ashley
she
Simpson
was.
was so cool. I remember getting like, I don't know what the magazine was. It was some like
American magazine?
no, it was an English magazine, and there was like a cool photo of her wearing like a black dress, and she had like ballet slippers on, and I was like, she's so awesome. I want to be her so badly. I think the same thing was talking about American Idiot, but that was just really cool at the time. And they're like, John Mayer is not emo, Jared Leto is emo, Hilary
my
Duff
gosh.
not emo because she's so thin, and you're just like,
Yeah.
leave
yeah,
her alone.
where does this go?
Like, leave her alone, please. And then, yeah, I don't know. A lot of it is like kind of categorizing everything, but it's in a way that doesn't really work. And I feel like if this was to be written today, this breakdown of stuff that emos do is not great. But we kind of came up with our own.
Yeah, it seems kind of very, very, very Americanized.
Yeah,
Obviously, because they're American authors, but it's
it's like one long article. I feel where they tried to break everything down into like a listicle, and it just didn't really work. But we came up with our own stuff. So, I mean, what do you remember like back in the day? What did you read as a teenager?
yes.
I remember back in the day, everybody being obsessed with the Bell Jar and Catcher in the Rye and The Perks of Being a Wallflower,
Yes.
and that was kind of the
Emo feel books.
yeah. And like I didn't read the Bell Jar until I was 21.
Yeah, I
and,
only read it recently
like
as well.
in the middle of a nervous breakdown, and I was like, I relate to this so hard. I mean, yeah, I was like also in hospital at the time, and I was like, wow, this is so relatable. She was in a hospital. Good book though. I liked it.
Yeah.
And Catcher in the Rye I read relatively recently as well. I still haven't read The Perks of Being a Wallflower, or watched the film.
Oh, okay. I've seen the film. I haven't read the book.
What did you think of it?
Like it's one of those like typical teenage stories, I guess, in a sense that it's just there's nothing standoutish for me that as like, oh, this is a special story because of X, Y, and Z. I was always a huge fan of like John Hughes and the Brat Pack. So when I was going through, I need to stop saying when I was going through my emo phase, okay? When I was younger.
Take a shot when Clodagh tries to claim she's not still emo.
Yeah. When I was younger, I was very interested in that and Tim Burton films. So
Yeah.
I wasn't really watching, I guess, films like Perks of Being a Wallflower. I've watched Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink numerous times. And of course, we can't talk about books or films without mentioning Twilight.
Yeah, and like that was my thing as a kid.
Yes.
Because I fucking loved YA, and I read Around Me in Rings. Like to me, like emo books at the time were Twilight and the series by Sarah Rees Brannan. She's an Irish author, but I think she was living in New York when she wrote the series, and like she's friends with kind of all the other emo authors that were kind of building at that time. So she wrote a series called The Demon's Lexicon, and it was about like a girl who meets a guy, and he's so like mysterious and weird, and it turns out he's actually like half demon, and like it was just super emo, and like I really want to read the books again because I imagine how I'd react to it. But the thing I loved about it was she was like small, and she had pink hair, and she wore corsets, and she was kind of bigger as well, like so she was real like curvy, and like it was like the first time I'd read a book where like she wasn't like thin and waif-like and clumsy, and everybody loved her. She was just like super fucking cool. I love those books a lot.
The Twilight one. I actually never heard that series until you told me about it earlier today. But the Twilight series, like that was for me as well. Part of my introduction, I guess, to some of the emo music was through Twilight, in the sense that Decode by Paramore.
Yeah.
Muse, although I never really liked them. You know, there was a lot of songs that were on the first Twilight soundtrack that were from emo bands.
On Stephanie Meyer's website, she used to do like playlists to go with the books. So the like all the songs she listened to while she was writing each of the books, and that's how I found like Linkin Park, and that's how I found Muse, and that's how I found like so many different bands that I never would have heard of before then, because nobody I knew was talking about it. And I know we've mentioned like Twilight on this podcast before, but I just think that was like the pinnacle of emo for me at the time, and like it blew into this massive, obviously like mainstream thing, but it was just like for a kid who loved wearing black, like it was just like everything's black and red, and it's so cool and thematically like perfect and stuff, and it was just that was one of my favorite things.
And there was the whole, I guess, thing of like the emo quotes about love, like, you know, forbidden love, and I can't tell him how I feel about him. And
like now you look back on them now and you're like, they're so creepy.
This is so wrong. Yeah.
So the lion fell in love with the lamb. Like, dude, she's not prey. Like, stop it. That's really creepy, and it's like enforcing this. It's horrible.
But there were some amazing emo movies, I guess. Jennifer's Body.
Yes. Oh my god, Megan Fox.
That was, first of all, it was an amazing movie, because I guess it was kind of, it was part of that like supernatural kind of thing, but also the soundtrack was incredible. Yeah, it was amazing. And like the fucking new perspective, like the Panic at the Disco, because this was like post Pretty Odd as well, when we thought they were gone, and then him and Spencer came back like with that, and it was beautiful. But that, I love that story as well, and the reason I think it's so emo is because like when we talk about the whole like concept of like bisexuality, and like all of these bands bringing in this idea that like it's actually okay that like you're not the same as everybody else, like showing a bisexual woman. I mean, like Megan Fox kind of gets like typecast a lot into like slutty bisexual roles, but it was still really cool to have like girls on screen together, because that's so unheard of unless it's sort of a male gazy type thing. But yeah, I love that film. I haven't watched it in years. I actually should watch it again. I haven't seen it in a long time. I've been trying to find the soundtrack on Spotify, but it's not there. But incredible. Another one was Alice in Wonderland, that film. That had that soundtrack was emo from top to tail. It was All Time Low, Mark Hoppus, Fall Out Boy I think had a song on it as well. Not sure, but we're gonna add this is all gonna be in our playlist. You will have heard this already, so if you found the songs, they'll be in the playlist. Another thing as well, were you into True Blood? No. Okay, I feel like that was a huge part of being emo for me as well. I loved True Blood. That was like, I was obsessed with that book series. Read all the books, I've actually watched every series apart from the last one, and I was like, I don't want to watch it because that's just the end for me. I can't do it. And I have got like the first couple of seasons on DVD to watch again, but for me that was like pinnacle emo. Like I bought all the merch. I remember like the True Blood, so if you don't know the story, it's kind of like a Twilight in a way that it's like a vampire and human relationship. Is this Charlotte and Harris? Yes. Yeah, this is the Suki Sakos. Yes. Yeah. So you know the story. I know, yeah. So they have, anyway, one part of the story is that the vampires, because they're integrating into society, they can buy synthetic blood. So I bought but it was like fizzy orange, but I bought it from like America and got it shipped over. I had the bottles for years. Like the stuff tasted shite. It was disgusting. But I Clodagh bought blood. I bought synthetic blood on the internet. I loved True Blood. That reminds, there used to be a series, and it was like so when I was in school, I had a friend who like her just and the one. Well, no, God, I did. I had one friend. Don't bully me about my sad years. No, and like her and her parents were really cool, and like her parents would be like, "Hey, have you heard this band?" So like I got introduced to like the Smiths and to the Clash, and like but also to Paramore and to like all of these bands through her parents, because they were so like cool. Yeah, they were awesome. Like there's so many bands that I never would have heard of if they weren't like, "Hey, give me your iPod and just download music from our iTunes or whatever." But we used to, so she introduced me to Supernatural, the show, which
Like,
Yes,
I tried to rewatch it recently because I loved it so much as like a 15-year-old, and I can't because it's so male centric. And now, like, through a feminist lens, I'm like, I physically can't do this, and it's a pity because I've watched some of my favorite episodes,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is great, but overall, and because I know what's coming, because I have another friend who still watches it, and she's on like season 16 or whatever the hell they're on now, and she's like, oh yeah, like this is
that still going?
they're on their final season now.
Okay.
So I know it's coming in Supernatural, so I haven't really been able to go back into it. But the same friend, like, we watched, like, I mean, it was shows that kept getting cancelled, but there was a show that was an awful lot like True Blood, and it was called Moonlight, and it was like, it only ever made one season, and it was like this vampire detective, and it was played by Alex O'Loughlin, and I remember her being like, he's really hot, and I'm like, he looks like he's really old. And then it was like my first ever like, oh my god, hot dad moment, like before the word DILF was a thing. I was just like, oh my god, he is really attractive. And like, it was the same kind of concept, like he bought blood like in bags from blood banks,
Okay.
and like he keeps them in his fridge, and he wouldn't eat people or whatever. And they only ever made one season, and I'd say it's because it was so close to True Blood that they were like, this is pointless. And there was another show called Dollhouse, which I think they only made like 2 or 3 seasons of, which I think the premise of it was basically like this house full of people, and they were kind of in like suspended animation, and then they get hired out to wealthy clients, so they'd end up on like missions, or they could be like romantic stuff. So it was kind of like sex workers, but like,
Okay.
I don't know, it was produced by Joss Whedon, so that's kind of why it's weird, I think, because you know, but it was Eliza Dushku, you know, Faith from Buffy.
No, but okay.
No, she has
I
never
didn't
watched
watch
Buffy,
Buffy.
which is quite sad. I mean, I watched it when I was like super teeny tiny, and then I watched it again really recently, and some of it holds up, some of it really doesn't. But Buffy was great, but I feel like that was kind of slightly post emo, but still a little bit emo, because it was, you know, vampires and it was dark or whatever.
I definitely feel like the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina would be an emo show had it been out then.
Oh yeah, like
now
would've
it's
been,
like, yeah.
it would have been peak emo back in the day. I'm trying to think what else films.
Tim Burton.
Oh, Tim Burton. Oh,
I was upset. I think I have every single Tim Burton, Johnny Depp, Lena Bonham Carter collaboration on DVD. Like, they were like kind of, they worked together a lot.
they're my favorite throuple.
Yeah, they were, until Johnny Depp happened. I used to love him. I think I have so many of his films, and so many of his films with Tim Burton as well. At home, but they didn't age well.
No.
So, but yeah, that kind of emo. They were.
Speaking of things that didn't age well, American Beauty. Kevin Spacey.
I know who Kevin Spacey is, and I know what
blankly.
happened, but I don't know about American Beauty.
Oh, American Beauty, like people, you know, like Fall Out Boy did the whole American Beauty, American Psycho thing.
Yes.
But American Beauty is regarded as like an emo film because it's like.
I've never heard of this film before.
When you watch the thing, it's like this dude who's like in a marriage, and his wife doesn't love him, and like his daughter doesn't care about him, and then he's at like a high school game, and then he falls in love with one of the cheerleaders on his daughter's like cheerleading squad, and like the whole film is really fucking weird. And then there's like scenes where people are watching a plastic bag float around on the screen, which I assume is where the Katy Perry song came from.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever filmed, and it's just a plastic bag swirling around for 15 minutes, and it's really odd. But that's regarded as an emo film for reasons. But just because it's Kevin Spacey in love with a child, and you're like,
I can see how some of these emo films are about older men falling in love with young women, and it's weird because when we talked about we did an episode of misogyny a couple of episodes ago, and the whole thing we talked about was how emo is this thing created by men but for women. Yeah. And it's weird to see that kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's been there forever. Like a book I read as a child that now I'm like, it's quite emo, and I read it again recently. It's Fire and Hemlock by Diana Wynne Jones. And the premise of it is basically this 19-year-old girl is looking back on memories she's forgotten about from when she was 10, when she met this guy, Thomas Lane. So it's based on the Tam Lin poems.
Okay.
And Thomas the Rhymer. But like, when she's 19, he's 33. She met him when he was 24 and she was 10, and she falls in love with him, and then they get together at the end of the book. I mean, spoiler alert, but like, it's really creepy. And I remember being 8 or 9 when I read this first and being like, what the fuck?
Yes.
Excuse me. And it's like,
scared the life out of me at
yeah,
that age.
I'm like, even now I'm like, oh, blah. But like, she was a pretty emo author, like, because you're like kind of gothic fantasy, I guess. But it's that same thing that just seems to be pervasive, and people are like, this is actually fine. It's fine for children to be in love with adults. It's not. That is paedophilia.
It's not okay.
That's not okay.
And it's, as well as kind of that trope, there's the supernatural or the odd character. Like, you know, you're the person who's kind of an outcast of society because they're so strange.
Like the demon barber
of Fleet Street. Johnny Darko.
Johnny Darko, yes. Those my friend Anne-Marie is like obsessed with Jake Gyllenhaal, and I can see that because everything Jake Gyllenhaal has ever been in is really weird.
Yes.
And in a great way, but like every single character he's ever played is like sensationally odd.
Yeah.
And I remember her being like, you need to watch Johnny Darko. And I loved it when I did, but it's like, I don't know, quintessential emo, because it's yeah.
I kind of, again, I watched that because I was like, all the emos were into it, so I watched it, not because I was like, oh, I think I'd like this film, but I watched it it's been a long time since I've seen it, so I just remember the scene of him being in the cinema with the giant rabbit. Or am I making that up?
No, that is the thing. I'm just you're like, that's all I remember. Cinema with giant rabbit. And I think the biggest thing about the book that I read is that it was pre-Twitter, pre-YouTube being a thing, and pre like MySpace, and pre-Tumblr, and pre all these like monuments of emo. I think it may have even been pre-LiveJournal. No, it wasn't. I mean, LiveJournal was there, but like MySpace wasn't really a thing. There were all these YouTubers that were emo. So you had like the people from My Digital Escapes, like Johnny Gilbert and Lita Bunny, and I think Eugenie Cooney was involved in that. And then like on our side of the pond, there was like Dan and Phil and like Stephen Byrne. And I think that was kind of Bry. Yeah, Bry. Like he was as well. And then there was like the whole Apartment Red thing.
Yes.
That we were revisiting a little while ago.
Very strange.
Like
looking back,
I mean, that was content, and like it's really weird, like watching videos that I adored and I rewatched in 2008, 2009, and now I'm like, oh god,
how did this pass as like content? How is this on RTE?
No shade at all.
No.
But it's really funny, and I know like Stephen Byrne, who was 365 Days, he's talked so much like on Instagram stories about how much he hates being reminded. So sorry we're doing this to you, but how much he hates
he listens to us every week.
But it was more in case somebody brings it up to him. I think one of his friends listens to this, or he has listened to it anyway, just in case he's like they're bitching about you. Please don't tell him.
Sorry.
But like he's like, I hate looking back and being reminded, even though like so many good things came out of it.
Yeah.
You could imagine. Like
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Like if I get where he's coming from, because I'd be completely scarlet as well. But also, like, don't be ashamed of it because it got you where you are.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd be just as embarrassed looking back at, like, the things that me and my friends filmed when we were kids, making music videos and...
Yeah, and, like, the things you did,
likes,
and, like, the way you carried on, like, you just... When you look back at it now, you're like, oh, God, but, like, you were having the time of your fucking life back then. So, and, like, I know I've seen, like, old Facebook posts and stuff where I've just gone, oh, my God.
Yeah, you've done no harm, so...
And I don't want to even delve into my old Tumblr, to be honest. I'll have to at some point just to see what's back there. But yeah, no, I imagine it's very angsty and very terrible.
I wish I did that whole Tumblr thing. I didn't keep record of my feelings. I feel like it would be fun to look back on now, though.
Pretty sure I have like shitty poetry up there and everything. Like it's just it's not a good place. But I can totally understand being embarrassed of it.
Yeah.
But like speaking of Dan and Phil, actually they're making leaps and bounds in terms of like, I feel like they're the perfect like on the Venn diagram of people who listen to them. There's like the emo kids who don't have like representation. Yeah. Because I mean there are like LGBT like singers and stuff, but there's nobody that's like into the same things that they are. They're like the perfect subgroup of like the nerds and the emos, like these are the people that watch them. But Dan posted a 45-minute video, like a coming out video, but it wasn't just like, oh, I'm gay, here's the whatever. It's like he talked about like why he prefers queer as his label and why it was so difficult for him to tell anybody. And then Phil posted one like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. He posted one about a week ago. It's coming out next week. So Phil posted a video last week as well, kind of where he said like, oh, I'm gay and like I'm kind of out to everybody, so here's me coming out to you, and like this is, you know, when you're gay you have to come out to everybody all the time. And it was just like really, really nice to see, and I feel like that's because their fans are overwhelmingly like LGBT kids who look to them as like this perfect, I mean, this is what we were talking about, like needing representation in emo. They are the perfect representation of like a supportive friendship to begin with, and also a supportive like couple, where it's like, you know, you share success and you're just really kind and it's really wholesome, it's really lovely. Like, I don't know, I love them so much. No, I always have, like I've watched them for years, and it's really nice to see this. And again, I think this is just proof that emo isn't dead. Like there's always going to be somebody sad on the internet talking about their feelings, and I think that's kind of partially what they represent. But like I loved that, and like I never really watched My Digital Escape. I've watched a few of Johnny Gilbert's videos where he kind of is like he's still we'll show you a picture. So I've just showed Clodagh a picture of what Johnny Gilbert looks like, and he is exactly, if you picture an emo, that's what he looks like. Yeah,
I think I remember his face from like back in the day. I didn't watch those YouTubers. I was mainly into Irish and British ones.
Yeah.
When I was younger. And no, that never. But I like, what's the other girl's name as well?
Eugenia or Lady Bunny?
Lady Bunny. Like I recognize your face from like Tumblr pics, or when you Google like emo girl or skin girl,
she
like
always
her picture pops up
everywhere. And then Eugenia Cooney was part of My Digital Escape as well. But I think part of her like fame was because she's been really ill for years, but like she's disappeared offline for a while. I think I was telling you about this a few weeks ago.
I was just about to say, is this the same girl that you're talking about?
She was really, 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 like, she looked really unwell, and people kept saying to her for years, like, you need to get help, and obviously something happened, or she reached a point where she was like, well, I do need to. So she seems to have disappeared from online, but her hairdresser posted photos of her the other day, and she's got like her side fringe is gone, she's not wearing like emo clothes anymore, and she just like her face is kind of filled out and she looks healthier. And like she's wearing just like a blue top and like a necklace, and I don't know, maybe she's done with the emo thing now. Maybe that was part of like
her
an unhealthy thing for her, but it's cool. And like I never liked her content that much, but like she was one of the people that people watched. So when he talked about emo YouTubers, and Shane Dawson.
Oh my god, Shane Dawson. Yes, he was actually probably one of the only American ones that I did watch. He was just he was an oddball in a good way.
Yeah.
In the sense that he was just creating quirky, strange content that was enjoyable because it was like just out there.
Yeah, and like he's still doing it. And have you watched the series he did with Jeffree Star?
No.
Oh, you need to. So Jeffree Star is another one as well. So like if you think about all the MySpace queens, like he was up there.
Yeah.
And like very controversial, very intensely problematic. But I kind of really didn't have much of an opinion on him until I watched the Shane Dawson series. So like he swapped lives with Jeffree Star, and like he kind of learned a lot about him. And it's like, you know, he went bankrupt after the MySpace thing because he tried to make his singing career happen, and then he was like, fuck it, I've got money again, I need to make this happen with my like makeup line. And like now he's like sitting on this fucking huge empire, and it's just,
I didn't know. I knew that there was like a documentary or something.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it was that. Actually sounds really good.
No, it's unreal. Like I honestly, because my friend Danny was like, you need to watch this, and I was like, I don't know if I care. She's like, no, watch it. And then I watched one episode, and I was like, I need to watch this forever.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Good.
But you remember all like the scene queens from MySpace. So you had like Vanna Venom, who like, you know, the picture of the girl with the like the leopard print hair. And she's doing the thing face.
The RAR.
Yeah, that's her. RAR XD. And then like Kiki Cannibal, who was like 14 when that all happened, and it really fucked her up. Like I remember reading an article in 2011. Did you ever see that? We'll put it up on the Facebook. The article was in Rolling Stone, and it was about like, I mean, she was 14 when she was like at her peak fame. Like, I think she was like 12 when she was first became famous on MySpace, and like people used to write like, oh, you fucking slut, on like her house and stuff, and like she was modeling for like local like hairdressers and stuff, and like she was getting death threats all the time. And then there was like an incident where she like there was an incident, and you can go read the article because it's quite upsetting, but it was just wild to read that. Kind of go like, what,
these people do things outside of the internet.
yeah. And then there was like Audrey Kitching, who's still going, and then Jack Vanek.
Yes.
She was like, she hung out with all like We the Kings and like All Time Low and stuff, and I don't know if like there's like rumors that she dated Alex Gaskarth or not. I don't know, but there was rumors that she's dated a lot of people, and now she's just she's got her own brand now.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it is pretty cool. And there's like, I think it was actually Fionnuala J, for the Daily Edge, wrote a whole article about where they are now, and so many of them are still kind of alternative, but the article was from 2017, and it was, where are your favorite MySpace queens now? But yeah, Audrey Kitching, Hannah Beth, you got the silence, obviously Jeffrey, poor old Kiki Cannibal, like, God love her, but she's just like a girl now.
Person.
Yeah, I mean, she seems to be a blogger, and she's got like, I mean, she just posts about what she eats in a day and stuff, but like, it's just wild. That was like, these were like household names for us.
Yeah.
When we were
teeny boppers.
When we were youths. Speaking of brands, actually, you had some interesting points.
Yeah, so there was brands that everybody wanted to wear. Like, obviously, for me, when it came to emo clothes and fashion, there was no real specific like place that we bought our t-shirts, or place that we bought our trousers or whatever.
Once it was black, basically.
Once it was black. Obviously there was band tees. People in America had shops like Hot Topic. We had Asha, which I didn't get to frequent because I didn't come into Dublin as a youth.
I bought one dress there, and I was an adult by the time I got to buy it because it was so expensive, and it's kind of a front for drugs, but like, it's great. It's a fucking, I don't know.
It's still like peak emo shop.
It's all we have.
It's all we have. Obviously Converse were huge. That's what everyone wore. But so many bands or band members had like clothing lines. So wasn't it Ollie Sykes had dropped dead?
Yeah. He now has like actual physical stores. Like, there's one in London in Soho, and then there's one in Sheffield. Like, I've been to both because I'm such a sap.
I didn't know they were still going, because Josh Macheski from You Meet Six had one. Down by Out, that's gone. One of them, I think Matt maybe, had Cheer Up clothing.
Yeah,
that's gone. And then I know Dan, the drummer, he had a band, or he had a clothing line as well. Can't remember what that was called. And I'm pretty sure it was like an Irish emo clothing line as well.
I honestly couldn't tell
of t-shirts. I cannot remember.
If you know, please let us know.
I can't remember what it's called, but I remember
@gmail.com.
I remember a lot of people used to wear their t-shirts, and they were like, yeah, they were on Bebo, and all the cool kids like modeled for them, and stuff like that. But as well as that, like, a lot of people wore Skull Animals.
Yeah, that was
Hello Kitty.
Yeah. Hello Kitty, fuck's sake.
So emo.
Yeah, that was
so steam.
But it's like, it shouldn't have been, but it was. But like, remember as well, like, everybody loved like Pokemon and like Super Mario and like anything basically like colourful and bright and like that epitomized XD-RAR. Good times. But it was like, you can nearly picture it was this weird explosion of like horrible colour grossness.
Yeah, neon emos.
What we looked like is what Blood in the Dance Floor sound like.
Yes, pretty much.
Like, I can't imagine it any other way. It's like cutesy but dark. I think that was like, it was like Emily the Strange, like cutesy but dark.
Emily the Strange, yes.
Yeah. Back in the day.
But there were so many, like, if you look at nearly any aspect of your life, there is like an emo subgenre of it, in a way. Like, even if you look to like food and drinks, Monster, pizza.
Yeah, we managed to make pizza emo somehow.
We managed to make it as, you know, an emo thing.
Like, energy drinks in general, like, how the fuck was it like we're so sad and depressed that we actually cannot get ourselves out of bed and we must
drink energy
caffeine.
drinks.
I mean, and that was my teen years. I had to give it up quite recently. I mean, I am currently drinking a can
We're
of
both
Monster.
currently here with a can of Monster.
Sponsor us. We're open to sponsorships. But like that like I had to give it up. I was literally drinking 2 cans a day, and people were like, "That's so bad for you." And I'm like, "You do cocaine."
Yeah.
Don't you come at me. But it, like, I used to like know down to like the like a fucking science, like what was a max amount of caffeine I could have in a day, and like what counts as like the caffeine poisoning. And
Wow.
the 2 cans are like way less. You'd have to drink like a lot more than that.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to drink like 3 or 4 before you'd get to a point. But like I drink 2 and I'd never sleep.
Wow. Oh my god.
That was
I'm gonna
emo
have fun
culture.
trying to sleep tonight.
That was emo culture. Not being able to sleep and staying up all night writing
and
stuff
then
on Tumblr.
needing a Monster the next day to wake you up.
I kept this going for years.
I wasn't
That's
really into
probably
Monster.
why I have a chronic illness now.
Maybe. All the Monster you drank. Today's actually the first time I've actually drank the green Monster. Bottoms up and the devil left.
Like, I guess the other main thing as well was the clip-in hair extensions with the horrible, like, the Claire's accessories, like...
The raccoon.
The raccoon ones, or, like, the leopard print ones.
Yeah.
Now, I actually, like, you'd only ever see kids... So, in Ireland, there is Central Bank, which is literally a bank that is central in Dublin, but for some reason we made that the home of, like, the emo kids.
Yeah.
So, like, I never hung out there because I literally wasn't allowed, but, like, I have friends who would go down there and they're, like, my chem hoodies and stuff. Or their Elliot Minor hoodies, and they'd be hanging out, and like that's where you'd see like kids with those clip-in extensions and like all like the band merch, and it was like they bought it just to go and sit and show it off. But it was like a cultural hub nearly of like all of these kids who'd hang out there.
Yeah.
But the other thing that epitomizes emo is like the like face piercing. So there was like
snake bites
or like a lip piercing.
Oh, that's all I wanted.
I wanted one so bad.
Lip piercing.
And I remember being like 19 or 20 and saying it to my friend Stevie, like, I really want to get my lip pierced. And he was like, Courtney, you're not 14. I was like, well, and you know what? He's right. I'm not 14. I probably can't get it done now.
Yeah.
Not just like no shade at anybody who has it done, but I feel like I know. I'm glad I didn't do it.
Same. I've always wanted a facial piercing.
Yeah, I wanted my
nose done. And I got
done.
my nose done as like a compromise because I was like, I can't pierce my lip at this stage. I've gone past it now. Again, no like shade to anyone who hasn't, but I just feel like I just couldn't do it.
No, that's why I got my nose done as well, because I was like, it's something else I wanted.
Exactly.
I've done it.
It's a compromise.
And I wanted like cartilage piercings so badly. Like I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, and how cool it looked when your hair was up. And even still now, I'm like, I'm so cool.
Same. I have like all my piercings like I never wear earrings, and recently I'm like, do you know what? I'm so cool. I'm gonna put piercings in all my holes. Earrings in all my holes.
Just putting things in our holes. That's episode title right there. I do think like I still at least once a year get an urge to dye my hair, like some like manic panic color. Like at the moment, I really want to dye my hair pink.
You should.
I should, but like it's in like once a year, and I mean like fucking clockwork. It'll seize me all of a sudden where I'm like, I need to change my hair color. And like I don't keep it, like it lasts for like a week or two, and I'm like, I miss my old hair.
That's it. Like I'm just over my hair being like bright orange. I got like a wash out dye because I knew I'd like do it like once or twice and be like, I want my blonde hair back. But it was nice. I really enjoyed the time me and my hair had together. But again, I'm 25. I'm aging.
I don't know. I had a lecturer who was like in her 30s, and she had pink hair, and she was the coolest person in the world.
Oh, I feel like I could like I would like to be able to do it, but I would get to, I don't know.
I think it's a commitment.
It's a big commitment. Yeah. Yes, and I would get to like panicked with myself.
That used to be always the thing. I mean, it's not so much now. I mean, everybody dyes their hair, but like that was like the coolest thing when you go to gigs and stuff, and you see these like kids with like blue hair, and you're like, holy shit, they're so cool.
I had my hair every colour under the sun. Pink, blue.
See, I would have thought
purple,
you were so cool.
Red, orange. I've had it all.
You did it all.
I dyed it black as well at one point, and it was
brave.
I looked ill because I'm so pale. I'm so pale. And then with the black hair, which is strange to me that I looked so ill because my hair is naturally dark like my eyebrows, as you can see. Well, Courtney can see, you guys can't.
I can confirm she has dark
They're
eyebrows.
really dark, so I was surprised, but yeah, that was a mistake.
Yeah, no, I was never allowed to dye my hair.
Oh.
But think as well, like the emo tattoos, which were just like scatterings of stars, usually.
Yeah.
Were like leopard print for some reason. Like, you ever seen?
I'd
people
get a leopard
with
print tattoo.
there's so many people I've seen that have like leopard print like shoulders or leopard print arms or whatever, and you're like, that is actually pretty cool. But the stars, like this, just the stereotypical star.
I'm glad I was afraid of needles when I was a teenager, because I would have a few disasters on me at the moment now.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, I've still got ones that'll probably get covered up, but they're not stars that were ones other people had. So
yeah,
it's more just like I gained weight and they've.
I still want a
they're
big emo
destroyed.
tattoo.
You still want it?
I still want my
Maybe
emo
someday
tattoo.
we'll get a Kids From Yesterday matching tattoo.
Oh,
When we get like 1,000 subscribers.
so in 7 years, I don't want to joke. We're not that far off it now.
We're not too far at all. I mean, we're getting there.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
If you want to help us get tattoos that we're stuck with for the rest of our lives, that could be pretty cool.
Then just tell your friends about our podcast. We've had a lot of monster.
We've had a lot of monster. We're not making any sense anymore.
My face hurts.
So I think that is all we have for you this week.
It is. So you can go and find the playlist for this episode will be up on our Spotify, which is separate to our podcast account. So if you just type in Kids From Yesterday, you'll find our profile there. We have playlists to go with all of our podcasts. There'll be songs in there from this episode that we referenced or mentioned. You can also find us on Instagram. We're at kidsfromyesterdaypod. Twitter at kidsfromyesterdaypod. And Courtney, what's your Tumblr?
Kids From Yesterday podcast at tumblr.com. No, not at tumblr.com. What's wrong with me? It's Kids From Yesterday podcast at tumblr.com. We might post something from the book there. They had a how to write an emo blog post, so we might do that.
Yeah, we can try that formula and see what we come up with.
See what happens. See if it works. Maybe it'll make us more emo. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.